Joseph says, does the soul keep in touch with worldly things, or does it detach itself and go to some spiritual reality? We always say that when a person passes away, the soul is not suffering anymore. The person who was sick, God forbid, is not suffering anymore. But if the soul remains close with its loved ones and watches its loved ones suffering, then does the soul suffer from the suffering of its children, grandchildren, spouses, or any other kind of loved ones? Or if the soul is a soul of a community leader, like a tzaddik, continue to suffer? Or has the soul found true peace and forgotten about our problems, at least from in the negative sense of the word?
You would expect that when the soul enters the world of souls, it means that it enters the pleasure of the soul. Life on earth is the pleasure of earth. Life in heaven is the pleasure of heaven. And you would expect that the deeper you get into heaven, the less sensitive, the less sympathetic you are to life on earth. So, yes, there are certain holy people who, when they passed away, completely disconnected from this world and cannot relate to physical problems, aches and pains, worries, doubts, but they are concerned with whether the world is holy or not, because that was always their concern. So there are those holy souls who do move further and further away from earth every year after their passing, every yahrzeit. And then there are those tzaddikim who get closer. And those are called the shepherds of the people. And that's because during their lifetime, these tzaddikim were not interested in heaven. They were interested in earth's progress towards becoming heavenly. And that doesn't change when they pass away. So they are even more concerned, more sympathetic, more conscious of what's going on earth.
So that means that souls, even when they go to heaven, are still very much of the feeling that earth, what's happening on earth, is of more primary importance to God and therefore to everybody else than what's going on in heaven.
Absolutely.
So in that way, a person should not feel ashamed to talk to a loved one who has passed away about their quote unquote trivial issues.
Yes.
Which I might say a soul in heaven would look down even upon a person fetching over what they would now consider to be trivial issues. You have to pay a mortgage and your back hurts and your kid is fetching. All right, get over it. Deal with heavenly issues. But you're saying no.
Well, for the person suffering the problem, if he could get over it, that would solve the problem. Question is the sympathy of a soul that is not suffering, but is watching you suffer. Can they relate? Can they feel for you? Or do they think you're being silly because what's a physical ache?
Right.
So those great tzaddikim do remain sensitive and connected. You know, the Alter Rebbe said, I don't want your Gan Eden, I don't want your Olam Haba, I want just you.
Right.
Well, if you want to be just connected to God himself, where is God? Is God in heaven? God in heaven. But no, God is not in heaven. God wants to be on earth. So those who are very holy, who say, I don't want your heaven, I don't want your Olam Haba, I want you, well, then they're going in the same direction And they also are concerned with earth becoming heavenly.
Okay, so then the reverse question. If a soul in heaven feels the pain of a soul on earth, then when the soul on earth gets over its pain, whether it's emotional or otherwise, does that bring nachas and satisfaction and joy to the soul in heaven? That must be. It must be that the happier a person is on earth, the happier the soul is in heaven.
Absolutely. Like the expression of may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
How do you afford a soul a peaceful rest?
Peace talks?
Uh,
Too soon. Too soon. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
if you let the soul know that you're doing well, like for example, a father who passes away, he knows he left his son in a lot of trouble. As long as the son is in trouble, the soul can't rest. You're only as happy as your unhappiest child. That's true even
Even,
after you pass.
even from heaven.
Yeah. That's why we're so confident that every soul in heaven is pulling strings for their kids on earth. They're rooting for you, they're hurting with you, they're happy with you. They come to every wedding, they come to every bris.
I would like to say thank you to Walter Folger for his donation here on the YouTube Live, along with thank you to everybody that has given of their hard-earned resources to support. It's good to know and to support the work of spreading the wisdom of the Torah to the whole wide world. Tal, what do you say to people who want to shut down the conversation and say, we cannot know things about God? Somebody mentioned that here on the oh, somebody said, of course there's a sense of humor in heaven, just look at the platypus. I apologize if there's any platypus on the chat or on this video, but that's pretty funny. So yeah, so people like to say, oh, but you can't know. Nobody knows anything. It's all speculation. We don't know. We don't know anything about God. We don't know anything about heaven. We don't know. We just don't know. So, I mean, the answer, I think we all know the answer, but what do you say? What do you say to a person who says, we don't know. We just don't know.
It's true. We don't know until we learn, and then we do know. See, the whole plan of creation, if you understand it properly, God creates a world, even though he is already, before creation, he is already absolutely perfect. He creates the world because he's interested in others other than himself. That's godly. So although he is perfect, his interest goes beyond himself, which is the opposite of narcissism. So if God is creating the world out of an interest beyond himself, he's looking for a relationship, then he makes himself known, even though by nature we really shouldn't be able to know him. But then again, by nature, he shouldn't need to create a world. So the Torah tells us, if you understand the Torah properly, Torah is telling you that everything you expected, because it would make sense, God does the opposite. He's full of paradoxes. God should not create a world. He's already perfect. but he does. God should not care how you behave. You're so insignificant and finite, and he is so infinite. How could he possibly care? But he does. God is unknowable. The Torah says he's unknowable. But then God comes down to Mount Sinai and makes himself knowable. So you got to understand when the Torah is telling you how things would be if the Torah had not been given, and how different things are now that the Torah is given. To say we don't know is like giving up on knowledge. We didn't know so much 1,000 years ago. How do you get to the moon? Oh, don't be ridiculous. We don't know how to
No
get
one
to
knows. No
yeah,
one knows.
never, ever. What are you talking about? So if you don't know and you're saying, I don't know, that's very honest. But to say we can't know, how do you know that?
I always find it funny when people who have a vested interest in sounding like the smartest person in the room, instead of saying, I don't know, says with a very grave nod of the head, no one really knows. No one really knows. And you hear this a lot when from scientists.
Yeah.
No one really knows where the universe came from. No one really knows.
Right. But you see, it really is disturbing, not only because it's glorifying ignorance, it also sounds like a cop out. It reminds me of men who are constantly saying, you can't understand women. You can't understand them. You'll never figure it out. You can't, which is why he's not nice to his wife. And he justifies it because, can't figure out women. You never know what they really want. It's not nice, especially since the whole plan of creation is for God to have a relationship with his people. And then his people turn around and say, I never figure him out. Can't know him. He's desperately trying to make himself known. He spoke to Adam. He spoke to Noach. He spoke to Avraham. He spoke to Yitzchak. He spoke to Yaakov. He spent 40 years talking to Moshe. And we still don't know anything. He gave us 5 books in writing all about himself. And we don't know. Okay. Are there some things we will never know? Sure. Let's get to that. We're still very far from the ultimate unknown. There's a lot to fill in before we get there. And I'm not even sure where there is.
Well, no one is really sure. There is no question that one of the reasons why a lot of people prefer to say we don't know, is because they have a very healthy sense of connection between what they know and what they do. And therefore, there is a sense that if I know, I am going to have to get to work.
Right.
Whereas a lot of other people may say, yeah, I know, I don't care. It's fine. Sure, there's a God. That's his business. That's his problem. It's not my problem. But the people who don't feel comfortable saying that will say, I don't know. I don't know for sure. Because if I know for sure, I will have to start doing everything that he wants me to do. And that's actually a compliment.
Look, the only thing we don't know is the future. It wouldn't be correct to say we don't know the past. What do you mean you don't know the past? Learn history. It's knowable. And if you don't know it, it's because you haven't studied it. You can't say that you don't know God. He is part of every part of your life. He is the creator of this universe. Everything in the universe tells you something about him. What do you mean you don't know? Will you eventually reach a state of knowledge where you can't go any further? Maybe. We haven't gotten there yet. We're still learning. Torah is still revealing stuff. I think it's a safer and more godly approach to say everything is knowable. Try a little harder. Doesn't that sound more Jewish? If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic and you're looking for more information or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it.